Hi, it's just after 6 a.m. and behind me is the town of Casper, Wyoming. Yes, I'm on another road trip. This is quite a long one. I am driving from northwest Montana to Denver, Colorado, where my niece lives, Eva. You've probably heard of her name before if you watch this podcast, because I have knit things for Eva before. But I am going down to visit Eva on a long overdue visit to my niece. There will also be a little surprise side visit while I'm down there that I'm excited about also. Anyway, yeah, the town behind me is Casper, Wyoming. This is the second largest city in Wyoming at a population of just 55,000. Wyoming has one of the smallest population densities in the United States, second only to Alaska. So yeah, it's been a long drive. But first let's talk about what I like to say, the elephant in the room, and that is my finished Anne pullover. I'm liking it quite a bit. I did make some modifications. I'll insert a picture here of it before I sewed up the top a little bit. I decided it was way too open on the top for me. It was slipping off my shoulders and that was just annoying. So I sewed the top up a little bit, and yes, it made it pucker a little bit here, but it's better than constantly, doing this thing, which I don't like. And then I found an old camisole I had in my closet and decided to wear that underneath it. And so I do like it. Things I would do differently to it are, I would start the cat's eye lace, which is the open lace here. I would start that below my breast. To me, that's a little too open. So I would continue this part down for quite a few more rows. I probably would have also made it a little longer. You can see this lace edge at the bottom. I love that lace edge. I was a little iffy about having to knit it. I was a little worried about it because you pick up and knit. It's a paid pattern, so I'm not going to give much away, but it's a lot easier than you think. And I really love the way it turned out. I love the sleeves. The yarn is Kraemer yarn, sterling silk and silver, Imperial blue, plus the top two minis are from the Yarn and I Etsy shop. So I do like it. I like it quite a bit. The purple on the sleeves and the bottom is a leftover purple I had that I bought when I was in Idaho at one point. Anyway, so yeah, I like my top. Would I make it again? Yes, but I would definitely make some adjustments. I made the smallest neck opening it allows, so yeah, I could have gone down a needle size maybe and made it a little smaller that way, or just not started off with as many stitches. I made the size 2, I believe she calls it. And as you can see, that worked out okay. Everybody kept saying, don't make it too long, don't make it too long, it stretches out. Well, it's not too long. It's definitely not too long. So, yes, it's a long drive. Yesterday, I drove for 12 hours. Now, I did not stop to eat. I ate while I drove. I had some snacks. I had some drinks. So it was just stopping and getting gas. So let's rewind. I did make one stop in the town of Buffalo, Wyoming. And I tell you, Buffalo is full of history. It's a very interesting state, much greener than I thought it would be also. I've been through Wyoming before, but it's been many, many years. Let's talk about Buffalo, Wyoming. I'm making myself laugh because it makes me think of when my grandson Russell was saying, let's talk about knitting in my last podcast. So Buffalo, Wyoming. I did stop and take some pictures of it. It is located halfway between Mount Rushmore and Yellowstone National Park. The population of Buffalo is about 5,000 people. It's on an elevation of about 4,600 feet. There is a hotel in Buffalo called the Occidental Hotel. The original hotel was a log structure built in 1880. During 3 different building additions, this brick structure grew to encompass a whole downtown block. And I got one picture of the inside lobby. It's very attractive inside. Not so pretty outside, but very pretty inside. The hotel was home to weary travelers and at one time or another offered a bar, restaurant, and a barber shop. It advertised that Owen Wister's famous cowboy icon, the Virginian, got his man here. Owen Wister was an American writer and historian, considered the father of Western fiction. He is best remembered for writing The Virginian and a biography of Ulysses S. Grant. Also near Buffalo, Wyoming, is a place called the Hole in the Wall, and that is a pass that is near a remote cabin which was used by Butch Cassidy's gang and the Sundance Kid, among other outlaws. And I'll insert a picture from Wikipedia. I did not get a chance to visit that. It's a drive from Buffalo. There are so many historic places around Buffalo that you can go visit. But the Hole in the Wall area was secluded and easily defended because of its narrow passes. At its height, it featured several cabins that gangs used to lie up during harsh Wyoming winters, and it had a livery stable, a corral, livestock, and supplies, with each gang contributing to the upkeep. They sound very organized for gangsters, don't they? I thought that was pretty cool. Another cool thing I liked about the town of Buffalo is if you've ever watched the show Longmire on Netflix, that was set in northern Wyoming, supposedly in the fictional town of Durant, but the author of the series, the book series, lives just outside of Buffalo, and he based the Longmire series, was supposed to be taking place in Buffalo. Most of it was not filmed there, but most of it was filmed in New Mexico, I guess. But the town of Buffalo has a Longmire Days every year. They celebrate Longmire Days, and characters from the show, actors from the show come and give talks, and they have parades, and they have Native American dancing and all kinds of activities for the entire weekend. And I did take a photo of the Busy Bee Cafe, where Walt Longmire often drops by to have his usual. They did film a few scenes in Buffalo, I guess, but that show is very, very popular in Buffalo, as you can imagine. It's a very interesting looking town. It's kind of touristy, but there looks like there's a lot of great restaurants and little shops you could go in, and I would love to spend some time in that area. It's very nice looking, and I really enjoyed driving through it. One other thing I wanted to talk about was this gorgeous blanket my friend Carol made for my latest grandson, Nico. Isn't that beautiful? Carol crocheted this, as probably most of you can tell. I asked her for the pattern, but she said she couldn't find it right away, but she said it's a ripple pattern and most crocheters would definitely recognize it. It's very soft. She said she made it out of Caron yarn, and she said to give it that softness, she doesn't wash it with detergent. She washes it with fabric softener to start with, and it is so soft. It's wonderful. And I will insert a picture here of Nico laying on it. It's a perfect size baby blanket. It's not too heavy, it's not too light, it's just right. Thank you, Carol, we love it. My daughter really loves it, and so does Nico. So this morning, my plan is to go have breakfast somewhere behind me in Casper, and then I will head on out to Denver. I have about 4 more hours to my drive, and then I will arrive at my niece's house in Denver. This drive is right around 1,000 miles. I realized that just as I set off from our house yesterday. I actually looked at the mileage. I'd only been looking at the hours it was going to take me to get here, but the mileage kind of set me back a little bit. It's like 1,000 miles one way. Oh shoot. And I did have some driving dreams when I tried to go to sleep last night at my hotel, but I managed it. I got through it. So I'm looking forward to arriving in Denver today, and you'll be following me along on my little trip.
Yes, we went to a concert at Red Rocks, and if you ever get the chance, you should definitely go. Pictures just can't do this place justice. It's beautiful. The rocks are just amazing. The amphitheater was designed by Denver architect Burnham Hoyt. And the walls of the amphitheater contain records dating back to the Jurassic period of 160 million years ago. They enlisted the help of the Civilian Conservation Corps, the CCC, and the Works Progress Administration to build the amphitheater seats. It seats about 10,000 people. We also went to the town of Louisville. It is not Louisville, it's Louisville. It's a very, very cute town, touristy, lots of places to shop and to eat at. We really loved it. We stopped at a yarn shop, Finger Play Studio, and they had this little yarn bombed bicycle out front. It was very cute. I love the studio, very pretty. They had lots of yarn, lots of local yarn. I don't think my niece and her partner had ever really browsed a yarn store before, and alpaca was found and fondled very nicely. It was a lot of fun. My niece bought me some skeins while we were in there because she is super generous. Zeus, one of my niece's cats, he loves me because he loves to try to get my yarn, and he's stolen some of it at different times, and he likes to bite on my knitting needles. But he is a sweetheart, one of the softest cats I have ever been lucky enough to pet. And look who I met up with. This was my little side trip. I met Patty of 4 boys and an NL girl. We went out for pizza together. We sat down by the river together. We knit together, and we talked and talked like best friends for 2.5 hours. I had a great time. It was so much fun. It was so nice to meet you, Patty. What a great time. I love that pen pal knit along that brought us together too. So thanks to Jenny and Candy for hosting that.
Hi, it's fairly early in the morning. Let's see, it's just 7:30. As you can see, I'm on the road again. Today I am in Laramie, Wyoming. And I stopped in Laramie because I thought it was kind of an interesting town. It does have the reputation, in 1998, Matthew Shepard, a gay student, was murdered here. But if you go back a little further, there's some really interesting stuff about Laramie, Wyoming. For instance, in 1870, 5 Laramie residents became the first women in the world to serve on a jury. 1870, that's amazing to me. And also, on September 6th, 1870, a Laramie resident was the first woman in the United States to cast a legal vote in a general election. That's pretty forward thinking for a little town in Wyoming. And yes, I'm in Wyoming. You just saw most of my trip to Colorado. It was great. I had a great time with my niece. It was so much fun. She and Heather were wonderful to me. Hi guys. It was a great trip. I'm so glad I went down to see them. And so yeah, Wyoming on my way to Montana. So we'll see how all this goes. I must drink this. Hi, I'm in the town of Three Forks, Montana, and I really needed a driving break. It's about 100 degrees out. It's been really hot. Even though I have air conditioning in the car, you know, you have to really, really crank that up to do much good when I've seen it like at 105 or so as I was driving through southern Montana. So I'm finally in Montana. Three Forks is in Montana, and it is actually the home of Emily, who is on Instagram. She is Be Not Idle, and I actually won a giveaway from her one time. So hi Emily, thank you. So this is Three Forks, Montana. They call it that because it is considered the start of the Missouri River, where the Jefferson, Madison, and Gallatin rivers converge to form the Missouri River, the longest single river in North America. But Meriwether Lewis and William Clark of the Lewis and Clark expedition designated the rivers, and because of their decision to designate, map, and name the Jefferson, the largest, as a separate tributary river, today the Mississippi River can arguably be called longer than the Missouri River because extensive rechannelization of the stream bed for hydroelectric power plants has shortened the river, while the Mississippi Delta has grown, lengthening the rival river. I thought that was pretty cool. I also wanted to stop here because I wanted to see the Sacagawea Hotel they have here, and I'll insert some photos of it. It's beautiful. So yeah, it's a pretty small town, about 2,000 people, and most everything is located on Main Street, so it's pretty easy to find things. The Sacagawea Hotel, as you can tell, is just beautiful. It served passengers on the Chicago, Milwaukee, St. Paul, and Pacific Railroad, which terminated in Three Forks until 1927, when the line was extended to Gallatin Gateway. The original building was the Madison Hotel, built in 1862 on the original Three Forks town site, and it was moved on log rollers a mile to its present location. I can't imagine. In 1910, the main lobby and 29 rooms were constructed by railroad agent John Q. Adams. Says the condition of the hotel had declined significantly by the 1990s. In 2002, it was put up for sale and was bought in 2009 by the Folkford family, which owns the bread company Wheat Montana, which is very well known here. The hotel was closed for 7 months for renovation, was refurbished and reopened. It now includes a bar in the basement, a restaurant with a bar, an adjoining meeting room, and 29 hotel rooms. They also offer bicycles for use on a trail that was created from one of the abandoned railroad trails. I also wanted to talk a little about Lewis and Clark because there's a lot of Lewis and Clark history here, and probably most people in the United States recognize the Lewis and Clark expedition. I'll tell you something funny. When I was a young child going to school, probably in grade school, everyone said Lewis and Clark very quickly, and it was like Lewis and Clark, Lewis and Clark. I thought that Lewis and Clark was one name and one person. Lewis and Clark. It sounds like a first name and a last name. But it is Lewis and Clark. And I have a little bit of interesting info about Sacagawea. Lewis and Clark first met Sacagawea when she was a girl of around 17 years old. She was pregnant with her first child. It was November 1804, and the Corps of Discovery, as the expedition commissioned by President Thomas Jefferson was known, had arrived among the Mandan and Hidatsa Indian tribes on the upper Missouri River in what is now North Dakota. It has been customary to describe Sacagawea as a slave of the Hidatsa, sold in marriage to Toussaint Charbonneau. But terms like slave and sold can be misleading. She was certainly a war captive, kidnapped from the Shoshone, the tribe into which she had been born, by a Hidatsa war party 4 years before Lewis and Clark showed up. But when present-day Hidatsa object to the term slave, they have a point, says historian Carolyn Gilman. Plains Indians did have a type of slavery, but it was different and more ambiguous than the kind practiced in the American South. A one-time slave could be adopted by a clan, for example, and his or her status could change. It was a more fluid identity. It's also hard to say definitively that Sacagawea was sold to Charbonneau. As Gilman points out, European Americans observing Indian weddings often talked about the women being sold, mistaking the exchange of gifts between the families for purchases. Moreover, in the early 19th century, there was a great deal of intermarriage between white and especially French fur traders and Indian women, and these alliances generally conferred some advantages on the women. That may have changed over time as tribes got more acquainted with white society and more contemptuous of it, says Gilman, but in Sacagawea's time, being a trader's wife was still a mark of status. The Corps of Discovery set out from its winter quarters on April 7, 1805. Less than 2 months after giving birth, Sacagawea gathered up her infant son and embarked with her husband on a roughly 5,000-mile, 16-month journey. Contrary to her romanticized image, Sacagawea was not the expedition's girl guide. On a few occasions in Shoshone country, she recognized features of the landscape and was able to reassure the captains that they were heading in the right direction. But most of the territory they passed through was as unfamiliar to her as it was to Lewis and Clark. Still, in ways both large and small, Sacagawea proved herself an asset. Throughout their travels, she supplemented the men's diets with wild artichokes and other edible plants she found and dug up. Lewis thought that our epicures would admire the root called the white apple. It would serve them in their ragouts and gravies instead of the truffles morella. One of Sacagawea's greatest contributions was her mere presence, which seems to have disarmed any hostile tribes along the way. As Clark wrote, "The wife of Charbonneau, our interpreter, we find, reconciles all the Indians as to our friendly intentions. A woman with a party of men is a token of peace." In mid-August, when the captains met with the leaders of the Shoshone and called upon Sacagawea's services as a translator, the journals record one of those fortunate coincidences you usually forgive only in beloved movies from childhood. Sacagawea, who spoke Hidatsa and Shoshone, but neither English nor French, was to translate the Shoshone chief's words to Hidatsa for her husband Charbonneau, who was to translate into French for a member of the Corps named Labiche, who would translate into English for the captains. They were just about to begin this unwieldy relay when Sacagawea suddenly jumped up and ran and embraced the Shoshone chief, throwing over him her blanket and weeping profusely. He was, of all people, her long-lost brother. After the expedition, Charbonneau and Sacagawea spent 3 years among the Hidatsa before accepting William Clark's invitation to settle in St. Louis, Missouri in 1809. They entrusted their young son's John Baptiste's education to Clark, who enrolled the young man in the St. Louis Academy boarding school. Sacagawea gave birth to a daughter, Lizette, sometime after 1810, but they do believe that the daughter died in childbirth. Sacagawea herself died at about 25 years of age. Her son, John Baptiste Charbonneau, continued a restless and adventurous life. He carried lifelong celebrity status as the infant who went with the explorers to the Pacific Ocean and back. When he was 18, he was befriended by a German prince, Duke Paul Wilhelm of Württemberg, who took him to Europe. There, John Baptiste spent 6 years living among royalty while learning 4 languages and fathering a child in Germany named Anton. His infant son died, and John Baptiste came back from Europe in 1829 to live the life of a Western frontiersman. He became a gold miner and a hotel clerk, and in 1846 led a group of Mormons to California. While in California, he became a magistrate for the mission San Luis Rey. He disliked the way Indians were treated in the missions, and he left to become a hotel clerk in Auburn, California, at the center of the gold rush activity. After working in Auburn for 6 years, he left in search of riches in the gold mines of Montana. He was 61 years old, and the trip was too much for him. He became ill with pneumonia and died in a remote area near Danner, Oregon on May 16, 1866. Super interesting little town here, though. I really enjoyed my stop. And I just want to show everybody that I did finish my Tulsi socks. They are completely finished. This yarn is Save Fantasia by Lolodidit, and this is a copy of the Yarn and I mini that I did the Hillstosen cuffs with. And I needed something to work on that was fairly simple while I was at my niece's house, so I started a pair of shorty socks, and I finished one of them. And this is the same yarn. I had enough left over of the Save Fantasia that I decided I could make a pair of shorty socks with it too. So I'm really liking that. And these are just knit. I do 60 stitches with a size 1 needle, and I just do a simple 2x2 ribbing across the top, and then I do a fish lips kiss heel. These will be for me. So as I showed, yeah, we went to a yarn store while I was in Colorado with my niece. It was really fun. We had a lot of fun looking at stuff. And I asked my niece and Heather to look at this selection of yarns and tell me which one screamed Denver to them. Denver or Colorado, I can't remember which term I used, one or the other. They both chose this one. This is by Hugh Loco. Isn't that beautiful? This is called Mouthy Goldfish. It's hand-dyed in Colorado. It is 75/25 superwash merino nylon. Yes, fingering weight 100 grams. So I've decided that I need to do a giveaway. I haven't done one in a while. I thought it'd be fun to do one. I'm going to give this to someone. All you have to do to enter is comment below this podcast, either here or on in my Ravelry group, Victoria Knits Ravelry group. You can podcast under that. I insert a copy of it there too. And just let me know if you have ever been to Colorado. I'd be interested to know how many people have been there. And I will, by the next podcast, I will choose a name. Now, if you're commenting below the YouTube video, make sure you leave me a way to get a hold of you, like your Ravelry name or something like that. And that reminds me, if you're looking for me on Ravelry, I am Victoria Jean, and on Instagram I am Victoria Jean W. Thumbs ups and subscriptions are so much appreciated, and I just appreciate everybody watching. It's been a lot of fun with this podcast. It's been fun. So anyway, enter to win, get your chance to win mouthy goldfish. Hi, last leg of my trip. I have about an hour and a half left to drive before I reach home. Pretty excited to see everybody. It'll be really nice. As you can tell behind me, it is quite smoky here. Since I haven't been watching the news, I'm not sure if actually, I think I heard that there were a couple of forest fires near here, but quite a few in Idaho. So we may be getting a lot of smoke from Idaho also, but I'll find out when I get home. Last night I stayed with some friends in Helena. It was very nice to have a place to sleep. And when I got up, I went downtown to get some coffee, and I had not been in Helena before, which is the capital of Montana, and it is gorgeous. What a beautiful, beautiful downtown they have. And then I drove over to see the Capitol building, and it's gorgeous too. I'm really glad I stopped there, and I'm so glad that my friends were home and I could stay the night with them. It was really, really nice. So the drive here, I'll show a really nice overlook. I stopped and looked back at Helena. It's smoky there also. They have a lot of smoke going on, but pretty drive to here. In my last podcast, I talked about having forgotten my Aphetos shawl that I was working on when I went to Priest Lake to see my daughter when she had Nico. I did remember to actually take the project with me when I went to see my niece in Denver, but I didn't get a chance to work on it. We were really busy and we had a lot going on, but here is what I've gotten done on it so far. I'm really liking it. I do have a safety line in here because I think I've learned that lesson by now, right? So I'm excited to work on this. This is with that yarn that Imperial gave me that she was not thrilled with, but I really like it. So that's how far I've gotten on that. I'm looking forward to working more on that. And what you see behind me is the Mission Mountains, which are always so attractive to me. And I wanted to talk about what I've been listening to while I'm on the road. I like to listen to books on tape. And one of the ones I just finished was The House of Silk by Anthony Horowitz. And that is it was actually a Sherlock Holmes mystery, which I really enjoyed. And I'll put at the bottom the one I listened to on the way there. I really enjoyed it. It had a different slant on a murder mystery, and I liked it quite a bit. And the one I'm listening to now is called The Life We Bury by Alan Eskens. And I really like the way this one is going too. So it's been fun to listen to my books on tape. I've really been enjoying that. One fun thing, if you haven't tried it, that I did when I was in Denver with my niece, was we played some Xbox videos. And I'm not huge on playing videos, but this one, they had a bunch of versions of the Legos video games, which I found very entertaining. They had Indiana Jones and Jurassic Park and some others, and if you haven't tried them and you get the chance to, I highly recommend them. They were a lot of fun. So yeah, I'm going to be home pretty soon. As I said, I'll have project notes and all that stuff below the YouTube video that you can check out links to everything. There'll be an off the porch segment. It's pretty tame. I took some pictures, our young chickens you will see have grown up quite a bit, and they're getting pretty big. The ducks are quite large now, so there's some of them. And then my 2 grandsons. I haven't mentioned, my 2 grandsons are now living with us along with my daughter and son-in-law. Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to getting home and helping out with the 2 grandsons. I won't have, you know, the knitting time is going to be a little less now, but that's okay, because it's good to have family around, right? So you'll probably be seeing more of them in my videos, I would imagine. But anyway, I wanted to thank you again for watching. I hope I didn't carry on with the history segments too much, but I just couldn't pass up the opportunity. Traveling, there's just so much history and so many things to stop and look at. I did pass up quite a bit of stuff, just so you know. Anyway, as usual, goodbye from Montana, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.
Nico, your baby brother.
Nico,